Hi, everybody. Rob Sternstein, Richard Goodrick are a few of the people on early. Christopher Gillingham over in Leamington saying hi. Ahoy, in fact. Denise Ross Peterson, hello from Virginia. She's on her way west, I understand. There's someone here. Stingray up in Seattle. Gretchen Dorian is at Mackinac Island. She must be up there at the end of the Chicago Mac. We're helping with the Port Huron Mac. Jody Shields, G'day from Oz. And Gordon Smith in Denmark, and a bunch of others. Let's get this show on the road.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to TFE Live, show number 439 for today, Tuesday, the 20th of July, 2021. I'm your host, Tom Ehman, and as usual, with me here in Studio B is the beautiful Julia Vedekint. She is lovely in blue today and scarfed as she hashtag the scarf.
I know.
Huh? I got to turn your mic up. There you go.
Awful.
Hashtag the scarf. I think that is I don't know if that was Stingray or Jody Shields or one of the gang. Welcome back, Julia. You had a nice long weekend, I trust.
I did. Thank you for the time off.
Okay, well, thank you for the continuing support here. We're, of course, live from Studio B. Well, one more show here before I go down south to Orange County for the Governor's Cup, the 54th edition of the prestigious International Youth Match Racing Championship. We have our 7th and final Road to the Gov Cup segment today featuring David Wood later in the show, but let's get on with it because we've got, I'll tell you what, buckle up. This is a lot of news. There's a lot of views. There's a lot of notables in this show, one of our biggest shows ever. And I'll start with this video that came from one of our FOSI. I should probably start a segment called The Starting Line.
Yeah.
Look at this. Watch this carefully. Shot the bloody skipper in the head, the wad. I don't know what club this is from. I'm going to back that up and play it again. Now watch, you're approaching the starting line at the committee boat end. This one of you said, who sent it to me, said this is a good way to take care of PMS, OCS, on the course side, premature starters. You can see code flag X has gone up on the committee boat, which means that's individual recall. I don't know what's going on in that video. If one of you knows, or any of you know, I asked, can't remember who that came from now. I guess it came from Alex Saldana down in South America, our FOSI Alex in Rio, and he sent it, and I asked him if he knew from whence that came, and he didn't know, but one of you must have seen that. Don Logan, ouch. David Robinson's watching. Alex Hayworth, we mentioned. Mark, there's a new name, Mark Molinoff. Welcome, Mark. Paul Homchick, Mary Jude Szymanski in Philadelphia normally, but Julia, what'd you think of that?
Makes my head hurt.
I'll run it one more time. We got it. You know, it can't hurt. I mean, it does hurt. But here's the guy. He's steering. Not only do they get somebody on the crew, they got the driver rolling around there on the cockpit sole. Bloody hell. So I can relate, only having said this. I remember one time I was racing in I don't know, laser or a sunfish at a lake near us, Devil's Lake in southeastern Michigan. And the race, you know, in those days they had shotguns, they had cannons, but they had a I don't know, 12-gauge cannon, I guess, one of those little signaling cannons mounted on a board. And somehow the board wasn't secure. It was on the front end of one of these pontoon boats, and they pulled the cord, and the cannon tipped down and shot the wad through the pontoon, the top of the pontoon of the committee boat, which was a bit overloaded with people, started taking on water. They had to bail out. They had to abandon the race. And, of course, we've all heard stories of where the race committee, I got to do this on camera too, Julia, where they've had their shotgun and they're shooting up in the air, you know, so they don't hit somebody on the boat, and they've got the 12-gauge shotgun, 10-gauge sometimes, and they shoot it. And of course, we've seen it go through sails, the wad coming out. You know,
I have seen it.
There's no bullets in there. There's no pellets, but there is a wad that goes in on top of the gunpowder when they stuff those things. And sometimes clubs make their own shells. And the one wag said, "When I see they shot a window through your sail." Of course, up the sail, and he said, "No, it's a skylight."
Oh.
Okay, so much for that. We have to have that new segment. We have the finishing line segment now. But thanks to Alex Saldana down in Brazil who sent that. Julia, your witness.
Yes. Perfect opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Indeed, and we hope that you will leave comments. We had over 300 comments on Friday's show, as we often do. Hundreds of comments. Astute comments, Julia.
Yes.
Not a single Croutonic comment.
No, and I learn something from them every time.
Indeed, and I think everybody does. This is as who calls it, Peter Stevenson.
Yeah. Sailing Illustrated University.
Exactly. But also, we hope you will join us on Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Support us, because this is viewer-supported media. Welcome to our 439th show, soon to be 450, Julia. We're moving up there rapidly, aren't we?
Yeah, I think at the same pace, but it seems faster.
I don't know. It seems faster, and of course, we'll be doing shows next week from Orange County. I'm going to jump into the America's Cup. There was some news last Friday I didn't run because I wanted to get Hamish Ross on and really get the hot tip. And guess who we've got today for live from Auckland is our longtime friend, FOSI, America's Cup expert, lawyer, rules advisor, Dr. Hamish Ross. Hello, Hamo.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Julia. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
You got too much headspace now that you went and got your tea or your coffee, and now I got to get your head back up to the top of the screen. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're very particular here, as you know. Hamish, any hot tips before we move forward with the two news items, one from late last week and then one from yesterday?
I'm going to jump straight into history, Tom. Today, the 20th in the US, and is the day that the first challenger lodged his challenge, officially anyway, through the Royal Thames Yacht Club in 1869. But interestingly enough, in a little joint day in history, way back in 1857, the New York Yacht Club sent out its invitations to a whole bunch of European yacht clubs to come and challenge for the cup. It's a bit curious they sort of both occurred on the one day, the 20th of July, rather.
The 20th of July, and that is interesting. Now, that was for you say AC1, that was for the 1870 defense,
Correct.
The first defense, what we call AC1. I think you and I call 1851, the race around the Isle of Wight, we call that AC0. Well, that's an interesting piece of history, but let's come to modern times here, because in the last week, this gentleman's been in the news. This is your Commodore. You're a member of the RNZ. That's Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron Commodore Aaron Young, who, Hamish, you can tell us, but apparently he sent out an email to club members, which was leaked to the New Zealand Herald. This was the headline last Friday: America's Cup, Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron's desperate attempts to keep the old mug on home waters. And this is what the article, at least the lead off the article, a leaked email has revealed a last-ditch effort was made to try and raise money required to host the next America's Cup in Auckland, despite an admittedly low chance of success. Now, Hamish, you didn't leak that email, did you?
No, I didn't leak that email. It was a letter to the members of the club. And look, Aaron's trying his very best to try and keep the cup in New Zealand, and that's what all of New Zealand really would like to see, including Team New Zealand, I'm sure. But economics, start to play a role here. And my view is that Aaron is doing everything he possibly can to find ways of keeping the cup here. And he's to be commended in trying to make that happen, and he needs all the support he can get.
He didn't send you on here today to spin it for him, did he?
No, he didn't. I haven't spoken to Aaron since for several weeks now. But look, it's a tough place for him. He's Commodore in the year of the 150th anniversary of the squadron, and he doesn't want to be the Commodore that sends the cup defence outside New Zealand, and I can understand that.
And for sure. For sure, and you're right. And let's go through the rest of the articles. Then we want to get to the real meaty news, which is the second article that appeared yesterday. So RNZ Commodore sent the email, yada yada, last month. As you all know, watching here on TFE Live, Team New Zealand CEO Grant Dalton told a gathering at the squadron, Hamish, you were there, more than 400 members, that it was extremely unlikely that a funding agreement would be reached with the government, Auckland and Wellington, after more than 3 months the negotiations had failed. Now, after another month of attempts to raise at least $80 million, to add to a reported offer worth of around 100 mil Kiwi from the government. And Auckland Council Young says the campaign has failed to progress its cause. Hamish.
Yeah, look, the door remains open so far as the government and Team New Zealand are concerned to a New Zealand defence, but as I mentioned before, economic realities are starting to bite. And, you know, I guess what the Commodore's been doing, and as a result of this email to members, he's reporting about what he's trying to achieve and gain some private funding for Team New Zealand and the event. And as he said, he's not getting the sort of the progress he would like to do to be successful in the endeavour. But the door remains open, and as being reported that Team New Zealand is now in discussion with a number of venues through its agent Origin Sports in the UK, and we are still some months away from learning the outcome of those discussions.
Yeah, well, Scott McLeod is on. As you know, he was the commercial director for New York Yacht Club's American Magic. I want to call him Young America, but this is the rest of that article, Hamish. He says, by the way, Scott says maybe ETNZ need to change their business model. Pointed words from polite, but pointed from Scott McLeod of New York Yacht Club. And one of the great fundraisers ever in this sport, he has raised more money for more events and run events and so on. He's a top-notch guy and a longtime friend. The rest of that article, Hamish said, if the money fails, it's another excerpt, obviously, if the money fails to be raised to support a local defense, then a string of foreign cities and countries are reported to be waiting in line to take Auckland's place. Okay, the Irish Examiner reported in June last month about Cork, Ireland. I don't think there's a snowball's chance, even though it's that club's 301st year, arguably the oldest club in the world. But that same article as tipped, as have we, way long ago, the Isle of Wight, China, Saudi Arabia, Valencia, and Dubai. I don't think it's Dubai, it's Abu Dhabi, by the way. However, Dalton told the Herald in June that a final decision will most likely not be made until bang on the final deadline. Quote, the last time, honestly, I think it was 45 minutes before we were about to sign to agree to go somewhere else. The deal was done to stay here. Now, you talk about a bold negotiating ploy. And then he concludes by saying, this is not us taking the cup away yet. Hamish, what's your take on all this?
Look, I mean, I think there's no change to the message being constant all the way through. They're trying to raise the money for both the event and their defence, and they are not leaving any stone unturned. As I said before, naturally, all of New Zealand and certainly Team New Zealand, I understand, are keen for a local defence if that is possible. And that's the key word, if that is possible. There's been a seismic shift in economics in all sports, and the America's Cup is not exempt from that as a result of COVID. And I guess we're seeing the outcome of the Olympics, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out after this Olympics.
Yeah.
So, sports are going to have to adapt. They're going to have to change as Scott said, their business model, and look at how they can function and survive in a post-COVID world.
Well, Julia, Hamish, we should welcome Eng Surmyong, who's on here. He's presumably at the IOC meetings. They're in their conference, the big session in Tokyo as we speak, I think day 2. So Eng Surmyong, former vice president of World Sailing, a longtime friend. We got to get him on the show. He's a bit busy right now, but right. Julia, we should really try to tee Surmyong up to get him on the show.
Oh, yes, I'd love to.
That would be good. But Hamish, back to you and the articles in New Zealand. That article we just were looking at was they didn't identify a writer of that article. It said staff writers, New Zealand Herald, late last week. But here's the new article. I thought I'd reprise. Do you like that picture?
That's a couple of years old now, but it's a great picture.
Yeah, that is, of course. Well, I don't even think it's a couple years old, is it? It was maybe it is. It's when they launched B2, I think.
Oh, I thought it was V1, but I could be wrong on that one.
Well, maybe you're right. But that's obviously the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister's there clutching her purse firmly and making a grab for it.
Can't blame either one.
No, but it's a great picture, isn't it, Julia?
I love it, yeah.
Well, so she is up for re-election, what, in September?
No, we've got another 18 months or so of this government, so Yes, the election's we're still only about half cycle at the stage.
Well, there. So that makes you happy. You're a big supporter of, aren't you, of hers?
I think you got the big wooden spoon out today, Tom.
If you knew what my day's been like, I got woken up this morning by Emmett. We've got a video to play of him. But let's go back to this story that came out in the Herald yesterday. New Zealand's economy, 293 million worse off by the America's Cup as, quote, significant deficits, unquote, revealed in a cost-benefit report just out. And this, as I said, was in the New Zealand Herald. Big headline yesterday. The New Zealand Herald economy was left 293 million worse off from hosting the 36th America's Cup. An official cost-benefit report has revealed today. 3 government commission reports released this afternoon identify a string of factors, including COVID, a lack of challenging syndicates, and overly high public investment. Overly high public investment generated, quote, significant deficits for Auckland and New Zealand. Auckland's economy alone was left with a financial deficit of 146 mil following the event, with a financial return of 72 cents back for every dollar put in. The report says, quote, when, quote, unpriced social, cultural, or environmental effects, unquote, are taken into account, the return to the Auckland economy is a little higher. It's 85 cents for every dollar spent, and 79 cents in the dollar to New Zealand. That would bring the loss down to 156 million from that big number of 293. So, Hamish, there's some more of this article. I don't think we need to go into it.
The message is there.
Say again, Julia?
The message is clear.
The message is clear, but the headline's horrible. The article's actually better than the headline. What's your take on all this, Hamo?
Well, the only surprise to me that someone wasted some money commissioning a report like this when it was so blindingly obvious. I mean, what a colossal waste of money to say, hey, it made a loss. I mean, when you shut the borders to tourists and to super yachts and everyone else, and you say, oh, we better commission a report to find out, what impact that all had. I mean, really, what a complete waste of money. No surprise there. Look, it's obvious. You shut your borders to tourists. You shut your borders to super yachts who will spend money down here at a very significant rate. You're going to get this sort of red ink everywhere. The other question I have is that these sort of reports are a bit of a witch's brew of accounting, to be honest. I mean, look at the infrastructure. The infrastructure's been built. You can hardly call that a cost of the event when Auckland's going to benefit from it from now and the next, 50, 100 years.
Exactly. That's a capital cost, not an operating or event cost. Let me go on and do a little more of the article, because the article does point that out, and I also want to get the ETNZ response. The New Zealand, let me change that page. Auckland Unlimited Chief Executive Nick Hill pointed out to several positives of the event, including the most watched, that's what ETNZ says, what Dalton said in that release a couple weeks ago, the most watched America's Cup of all time, with a total global audience of 941 million people. Yeah, okay. Record numbers of people turned out locally. Auckland Council revealed today its spend on the event was 92 million higher than had previously been made public, because it had brought forward spending on already planned works. So you can see the council says bringing the work forward will result in future savings of 67 mil. So there again, Hamish, you got, bookkeeping being done, and they're robbing Peter to pay Paul in some, but they're attributing to this current America's Cup future costs by all accounts.
Yeah, these sort of reports too tend to be politically driven and commissioned. So, anyone can grab some set of figures and dress them up to make them look good one way or another. Another issue, of course, is the costs they put in there, such as rubbish collection and even just policing. I mean, we don't recruit extra police for the America's Cup. Yes, we might divert some police from one area and put them into another area, and then to charge their salaries as part of the cost of the event. I mean, it's absurd. So you get all this sort of what I'd call nebulous witch's brew of accounting to demonstrate one way or another that the event is a success or a failure economically. The fact of the matter is, yes, we never achieved anything like the returns that we were hoping for because of the blindingly obvious closure of the borders. And, it's hardly a surprise. And I'm just going back to the Olympics, which I touched on earlier. I mean, this Olympics going to be covered in red ink as well coming forward, and that's going to have a big impact on all sports, including sailing, if it's not going to get a dividend that it got previously.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, go back to COVID for a minute, which is on everybody's minds, and we're really sorry to keep reading about the problems in Australia, particularly in New South Wales, and also in Victoria, Melbourne, and so on. Also in South America continuing, of course, Africa, which we don't have a lot of viewers in Africa except down in South Africa, where Ted Ryman and others are watching, and they've got huge problems. I talked to our mutual friend Julia and Hamish Merkel-Groschner. He called an hour or so ago. He's well, but he said, he's in the promotion events management business, and he said it's all but dried up. He's really in tough shape. He's even thinking about, well, he's got a lot of mouths to feed. He's got a number of people on staff and so on, but he's so far keeping busy and keeping his head above water. But COVID, it's not just the COVID, it's the uncertainty. Can you go into events? Will they ever open the halls up to bigger capacity crowds and so on? So it's tough for everybody. And now the UK, it looks like, by all accounts, I haven't talked to Andrew McIrvin, but it looks like the UK is going on a herd immunity strategy. They had their Freedom Day yesterday, where they all went, open, and here we go. Of course, they're starting to close down here. As you know, Julia, back in the U.S., starting to close things down again in certain places, notably L.A. and even up here to a degree, at least recommendations. But what's going on in Auckland, Hamish? Because you are as closed down as tight as anybody in the world, and how's that going?
The border's certainly tight, but it's not tight with them once we're inside the border. I mean, we live our lives normally at the moment, except we can't travel overseas without having to isolate for 2 weeks on return. The only nice warm place we can go to without having to go into isolation afterwards is the Cook Islands. So we're pretty much closed down so far as borders are concerned.
Okay, well, back on this financial report, TNZ, America's Cup Events, which is ETNZ's wholly owned subsidiary, owned contrasting report. In contrast, and this is the article again, back in the New Zealand Herald. In contrast, the Auckland Unlimited and Independent Fresh Info Cost Benefits Report, an evaluation of the benefits of AC 36 was also released by ACE today, which is yesterday, that painted a more positive economic picture. So as you say, without getting into the details, Hamish, you can spin these things, and they have been spinning these things since, you know what the first economic impact report was, the EIS for an America's Cup was? As we had to go when I was running things.
San Diego?
Say again?
Your day in San Diego?
No, it was way before that. It was the University of Rhode Island back in the 70s did an EIR, which of course said how positive it was for Newport, which of course it was. I mean, Newport, when all those people came in, it was the summer of the Cup. And even before you had a huge number of teams, you only had a half dozen teams or so as challengers, but you had 2, 3, or 4 defenders vying, and you had families staying there and cottages being rented, and a whole lot of people going to watch, not just in September, but in June, July, and August during the 3-month trials period. And I think that's why a lot of us think, Hamish, we need to get back to that kind of a traditional America's Cup so that the challengers can get practiced up, so people can get acclimatized to the host venue, but also so that the economic impact is a little better than it has been of late.
Oh, look, there are a range of measures that need to be taken. And I think the time is rapidly approaching when the America's Cup needs to take rapid action against the rising costs and not just superficial actions. I honestly think that the whole model has to be redesigned from scratch. And that really does involve all the stakeholders becoming involved. That means all the competitors, all the potential sponsors, and obviously venues as well. And we really need to take a fresh sheet of paper and replan the America's Cup within the boundaries of the deed.
Yeah, well, Jonathan Frank is saying, indeed, let's go back to go forward. You're not talking about amending the deed, are you? Hamish, did you hear me?
No.
Yeah, I just got a bit of interruption in the signal here.
Okay, good. I mean, not good, but I'm glad you can hear us. I was just asking, you're not suggesting that the deed should be amended, are you?
Lost him.
Uh-oh. Have we lost Hamish?
Again?
Again? Hamo, can you hear us?
No.
Seem to have lost Hamish's audio. It's been pretty good. Everybody else on here listening? Hearing us okay?
Yeah.
Hamish, we can hear you. To go ahead and talk. I guess you can't hear us.
No.
That's cretonic.
I don't know.
Let me go listen to be sure we're sending audio out. Yeah, are we? Yeah, we're sending audio out. Well, we'll leave Hamish, as obviously he's left the set there. We can hear him, he can't hear us, and I don't know why that is. Maybe he's got it. Hamish, we can hear you. He can't hear us.
Yeah, I can sort of start to hear a bit more, Tom. It's improving slightly.
Okay, well, I don't know if your computer at work should have stayed at home, Hamish. Can you hear me?
Sort of.
I don't, yeah, okay, I don't think he can hear us, so I don't know what the problem is, but I don't seem to have any audio send problems to him.
Jonathan Frank said perhaps it's a question that should not be answered.
Yeah, maybe it's a question that should not be answered. Hamish, we'll let you go. Thank you very much. I don't know if your computer or speaker or something there, but obviously we've lost the audio with Hamish. We can hear him, but he can't hear. Maybe I can Skype him a question, Julia. How's this for old tech?
Okay.
Huh? Yeah, well, that's too hard.
Can't post it.
Now, Hamish, we'll let you go. Ciao. Ciao for now.
No, he doesn't know that.
He can see us, but he can't hear us.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure out his audio. Sounds good in Southern California, desert. Okay. He cannot hear us, and I don't know why. I'm obviously sending audio out to everybody, including to him. But okay, we'll see you. Bye. Okay, we'll let Hamish go. Sorry that we don't have him on here, but the America's Cup events, we lost his audio. He's lost our audio to him, but if all of you are hearing us, speak out or get off the pot, Stingrays. Okay, we've lost Hamish, so that's a shame, but one of the most brightest and most erudite guys, he wants to do obviously, as you could tell, he wants to have a rehab of the kind of the look of the cup. I don't think he wants to amend the deed, but I do think, Julia, we've talked with him offline, and that New Zealand Herald report we're talking about was written by Tom Delane via Fosie Mark Husted, who is an Aussie living in Sweden and a Fosie, as you all know. Thank you, Mark, for sending us that. Thank you for Hamish Ross for coming on. And yeah, Denise, we can hear him. He was typing and so on, but somehow he lost the audio from us. And I'm sorry that happened. Let's carry on because as I said at the top of the show, we got a lot going on. Let's do this. Bravo Zulu. I know a lot of you watched this event over the weekend, and that, of course, was Sail GP in Great Britain, in Plymouth, the Great Britain Sail GP, the GBR. And here is the three finalists: Billy Besson from France, Jimmy Spithill, that famous American. It still rankles a lot of people, Julia, that Jimmy, who was born and raised in Australia, but he sailed for Oracle twice. He lives in San Diego. He's married to an American. His kids go to school and so on. So yeah. We got to get over that. I think. I know it still rankles a few of you, and of course the even by now more famous Australian Tommy Slingsby. Those three went into the final race. And I have taken the highlights video from Sail GP, and I'm just going to run the last 3 minutes from the most exciting part of not only this final race, because remember, it's winner take all. The top three teams of the 8 coming out of the fleet racing going to this winner take all one race. We've talked a lot about that format on this show. Star Sailors League, these two formats versus the medal race at the Olympics, where they count back to previous racing. But let's watch this. I'll just play the last few minutes of it so you get a flavor for how exciting this winner-take-all final race was in Plymouth.
There's a wobble. Oh my goodness, what's happened there? Let's listen on board. Pretty calm. Campbell James says speed built for the attack. And there's another rudder conversation there. That was the voice of Ron Kirby's. The rudders are misbehaving today. It's the French that have wound up in pressure. It's the French that are on starboard. It's the French that should own this mark. And there is multiple lead changes on leg 3.
Terrible tack by the American team there. Again, under the pressure, they really needed to nail that. They could have made it half the Australian team, but the French getting ahead, they just laid that mark. They perfected their lane on and that last tack, that one extra maneuver. Wow, this final is all on, isn't it?
So the USA goes from first to third at the halfway point. France has now taken over the lead, the most consistent boat really all weekend long, and Australia back in the mix after that early issue.
Coming down a little if you want. Coming down if you want.
The Americans have had a sticky downwind. They're over 100 metres off the back of these two. This is the race for the win in Plymouth. Oh man, they go around the leeward marks together onto the final 2 legs of the course. It's going to be about which side the best breeze is on here, Matt.
This is brilliant, isn't it? This is what we want. Let's get those head-to-heads up if we can, and we'll show you the speeds between the boats in a second. Which side would you pick, Freddie? The left has looked slightly better from what I've seen so far. It's a really wide course, though, so anything can happen. Roll the dice. Who's going to win this next cross? You never really know who's ahead until it gets to the cross. The Australians will have the right of way when they meet again.
It's into this gate and then a quick blast to the finish line. This could be for the win right here.
This is the jibe to land the Australians in front of the French. Let's listen to the onboards. Will the French be able to use the down speed of the Australians to step past them? No issue with him is the call off board the Australians. And they're accelerating. That might have been the jibe that won the event.
Cool is a move of the day. Yep. And now the dirty wind coming off the sail of Australia Sail GP. That could have been the move as the Americans unable to close the gap as they led at one point, now sitting in third. And now it's Australia with a quick blast to the finish line. No more maneuvers needed for them as France is in second as they watch the Aussies get up to 60 kilometers an hour.
They did the worst jibe of the day on the first downwind to give up the lead. They did the best jibe of the day to win this event. Is like air's really your weakness, Tom Slingsby. Absolutely unbelievable race.
So the Aussies become the comeback kids at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix, and the defending champions get their first overall win of the season.
What a way to bounce back from last in Taranto to first in Plymouth. And the French coming across the line in second. That is their second podium of season 2. Bravo, Billy Besson.
Well, it was an exciting race. I got up early and watched it here live on my iPhone. And, you know, the racing was close. There were position changes. I don't know what happened to Jimmy, and I see all these jokes about redhead and red. Yeah. You know, there were not any. Did you know, Julia, that there never has been a winning America's Cup boat that was red? And there were some famously bad ones. Mariner, that Ted Turner's boat in the 70s, the one that had the cut-off back underbody that has the comment about even a turd is pointed at both ends and, you know, some other stuff. Yeah. And remember Liberty in 1983, Liberdog, as it was called, Dennis lost the cup in a red boat in 1983. So red boats are, you know, it's interesting whether they're good luck or bad luck in sailing or just in the America's Cup.
Especially if they're driven by redheads?
Well, you know, Jimmy's won 2 America's Cups, and he's a redhead. He doesn't have much hair left. But all this stuff about Red Bull and redheads, and my girlfriend is, my wife's, I don't think anybody, maybe I'll dye my hair red, Julia. Get rid of the gray.
Yeah.
And see if that obviously isn't going to help. But bravo, Zulu, to all 3 of the teams. It was a great weekend for them, a great final race. You got to give Billy Besson a lot of credit. He's come on strong for and with the French. Slingsby, who's gone from the outhouse to the penthouse after doing so poorly in Italy a month ago, has now come back into his winning form. And Jimmy is still there struggling, but he's on the podium looking pretty good, and I think will be pretty okay. Now, I could not find the names of and I really don't like this. I do not like to run and say, there's Tommy Slingsby, the skipper, with his the wheel, the trophy, and the rest of his team. I like to put all the names, and I apologize to them and to you for not being able to find the names of the rest of his team, despite looking on SailGP's website, on the Reuters and other reports, even Sailing World, where Gladwell and his crowd usually do a pretty good job with crew names. Folks, when you're running press releases, put a picture with the names left to right of the sailors, all of them, not just the skipper, not just the tactician, please. Nonetheless, Bravo Zulu to them. Australia now on the second season. It's tight at the top. Slingsby and co. are tied on top with Ben Ainsley. And, of course, Ben's team has done well early, and now they've had Goody has been driving in Ben's absence. We were all wondering why Ben was gone. Was it because of America's Cup preps? Well, his wife has had a second child.
Aha.
So that must be the reason why. Billy Besson, on the strength of his two now good finishes of late in France on 21 points. So Bravo Zulu 2, really all those teams are all in the hunt, and they're all in the top all the way down to at least Spain. And, of course, the Kiwis had the problems with their boat at Bermuda and have been gone now, getting ready to probably medal again at the Olympics in the 49er class. Arguably the two best sailors in the world, Pete Burling, Blair Tuke. We'll see if they're back and in good form next month, because the next event will be in Aarhus in Denmark. The Rockwool Denmark Sail Grand Prix. Aarhus is August 20th through the 21st, so just a month from now. We'll be keeping an eye on that, both the build-up and the racing, as well as the rest of the events. We've now had 3, Bermuda, Italy, Great Britain, in Denmark next month, then France in September, Spain in October, Australia in December, just before Christmas, then New Zealand, and that's in, from memory, Christchurch, isn't it? I think that's in Christchurch. One of you on here will know. And then finally back here to San Francisco, where they started last year, but they're going to end this 2021-2022 season here in the Bay Area on the 26th and 27th of March. So really, bravo Zulu to all of them, including and especially Larry and Russell, Larry Ellison, Russell Coots, for keeping this thing on the road, fighting through COVID, making it happen. And, Russell's spending Larry's money, but doing it diligently. And it's the top professional aspect of our sport, aside from the America's Cup. We'll see how the Star Sailors League turns out, but bravo Zulu to them all. Now, there's some things, and you should put in the comments, there's some things that are crutonic. This kilometers per hour came in, not just from our Fozy, but from a lot of people, Julia. If you were watching it live Saturday and Sunday, you're saying, excuse me, why are we dumbing the thing down? You're not going to attract, or you might attract a few non-sailors, and it'll hopefully we attract a lot of non-sailors. But we all learn what a cricket pitch is. We all learn what yards and meters are. We all learn what the various, intricacies and the nuances of the various sports, whether it's hockey, baseball, football, cricket, rugby. Tell me what. Use knots and explain, as we've had this rant on the show before, nautical miles per hour. It's about the same as miles per hour. It's double kilometers per hour. I mean, come on, Russell and co. And there was a lot of criticism of the American play-by-play guy. I don't need to defend him or anyone else, but it's tough to find professional broadcasters who know anything about sailing. I would rather have Jody Shields any day doing the play-by-play and as the host, hosting it and doing play-by-play, or get somebody who is not a yachty to do the hosting and then turn it over to a play-by-play guy like Jody who knows sailing. But again, I digress. What do you think, Julia?
Yeah, I think the time has come to declare that better.
Yeah.
Until we have somebody who really can do both roles.
Yeah. So let's have a host, is my suggestion, who is a non-sailor, a professional broadcaster. The same way they have, one of the senior NBC guys, at least for our unilateral coverage here in this country, and then they kick it off to the venue for the guy or gal who knows what the hell's going on and does the play-by-play, whether it's whatever sport it is. Okay, what other comments? We got a ton of comments on here, Julia.
Bill Wingrove says, and you wonder why the interest is going down, overhyped and over dumbed down, trying to satisfy an audience that is not.
Yep, not there.
There.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think from it does get a little overhyped, and I'm listening. In fact, during that video, I turned my earbud off and listened to the studio monitors here to see how the sound was coming through on bigger speakers, because again, they seem, mixing sound is difficult, and whether you're mixing it for Julia's headphones or for my earbud or for studio monitors like we have here on the table, which I listen to, but when you're really mixing, when I mix this show and I test the audio on this show, I test it for how it sounds on the iPhone, because I know that's how most of you are listening to it, or on your, your Android phone, your Samsung or whatever it is, because that's how most of you are listening. And right now, for me, that audio coming from Sail GP, the on-the-water audio and the commentary audio very much is in conflict. Now, in the studio speakers, it sounds okay. So they're probably the audio guy mixing it in the booth in London is listening through big studio speakers that easily more, spatially and orally better differentiate the sound. Okay, I digress. What the techie nerd I am. What other comments, Julia? Christine Prigmore Gribben. You know who that is? You met her at the bar at St. Francis.
Yes.
The chair of like the 7th year in a row of the Gov Cup.
Oh, that's right.
And also the chair of the Worlds. I'll be down there.
She does a real job on that.
Susan Kenny, how about you and Andy? Well, we'll be down there doing commentary for Gov Cup, but between me being a crouton and old, and Andy being a crouton and old, and Andy Scott is, and we're not professional broadcasters. We love to do Gov Cup, and frankly, if we put one of the kids in to replace me doing color and being the analyst, some call me the analyst, we'd be better off, because you get Jeffrey Peterson, you get you get any number of these kids, Leonard Takahashi and his crews that have filled in.
Yeah, they've been terrific.
And they have been terrific. And so let's don't get into us. We'll be very pleased though to be down with you, Susan and Christine. I'll be down there Saturday, as I think you both know, to get going with Gov Cup, and we're going to do 10 live shows next week at Gov Cup. 10. So we'll tell you more about that at the end of the show. Duncan Withrow, me too. The important thing is relative speeds between boats. Units are not really important. Yes, so why not just use the units that we're all familiar with? Don't piss off. Sorry, Julia, you can shake your finger. Hey, I've got something else here too. I put in the show. Look at this for you. See that? Can you see that graphic? You can't. There it is. I got this graphic I can put in. I used that once before, months ago.
Yes.
You can shake your finger at me now when I use the word piss. Look at your camera at least when you do that. There you go. Oh my God, what a crouton he is. Point being that, let's don't piss off the sailors. This is one of the things we did with the Cup here in San Francisco, is that we talked, Russell, not me, but we talked in ways that through the yacht clubs, we didn't name the yacht clubs, we didn't talk about, and the America's Cup is a yacht club event. A club challenges, a club defends. And to try to make it the team, try to make it the country without the yacht club throws away a big part of the history and tradition that so many of you who are traditionalists like. So yeah, Clark Chabin, as long as you're on a rant about kilometers per hour, is there a tie-in with daylight saving? No, we're not going to get into daylight savings time. But let's stop changing daylight savings time, Clark. What else, Julia? Embarrassed to admit it. You see Stingray? He says, embarrassed to admit it, I'm getting comfortable with Sail GP's kilometers per hour. Come on, Stingray. Bloody aircraft engineer that you are. He only deals in knots.
Yeah.
Hello, Joe Alexander. Nice to see you back. Ed Vitrano, nothing on barging start and black flag of Phil Robertson. He must be persona non grata for dinner. Yeah, there was a lot of controversy, as you Brits would say, and down you Antipodeans, controversy about the umpiring. And how would you know? I think Steve Mitchell, who's the chief umpire, is a fabulous sailor and fabulous umpire. He wouldn't be there if Russell and the sailors didn't have absolute confidence in him. He's not perfect. The system, whoever invented that umpiring system, Julia,
Yes.
But it's way, I mean, it's way better than protests after the fact, let alone not knowing what's going on. Jody Shields, Slingsby, Kyle Langford, Ed Powies, Nick Hutton. See, thank you. And that's just some of them. Jody Shields is naming them. I wish Jody were back doing the play-by-play, don't you, Julia?
Yeah, it needs a little touch of humor anyway.
Well, and Jody is funny as hell, but he
knows what he's doing.
He keeps it, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he keeps it in reserve for. Okay, let's swing back down to the bottom of the comments. Richard Draverman has joined. Paul Humchek is watching. Jonathan Frank, of course. One last comment on Craig Mitchell's. What did I say? Steve Mitchell. Thanks, Scott McLeod. Craig Mitchell is the chief umpire. Well, thank you for that. Last KPH. KPH just makes the number higher and more hyped, Bill Wingrove is saying. Yeah, I think that's part of it. You know, why go 60 miles an hour when you can go, or is it 62, when you can go 100 kph? Okay, exactly. Ralph Roberts, nice to see you on here. I'm going to use one of Ralph's comments later in the show that he put on Facebook. Let's do this day in history while we're on things here. Do you know what happened? You had the America's Cup history. Interesting that the first ever challenge was submitted for the 1870 defense by the Royal Thames Yacht Club. Did he say Royal Thames? On this day, Hamish, that is, on the 20th of July. But what happened on this day in 1969? Janice Davis will know that. She just made it. Hello, Mom. My beloved mother. Mary Jude Szymanski will know this. Hard to believe this is already 51 years ago. Here's your first clue.
Man on the Moon?
Yep. This is the day that they landed and walked. And these are photos, archival photos that came out on the anniversary a couple of years ago. And they touched them up, they colorized them. I'm not sure what all they did, but remember the original ones were just black and white. But look at these. I'm not going to use any others, but on this day in 69, as you all know, Apollo 11 lunar module carrying Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin lands on the surface of the moon. Aldrin and Armstrong walk on the moon 7 hours later. And poor old Michael Collins remained in orbit in the lunar module on this day in history, 20th of July, 1969. Do you remember where you were?
Yes.
What you were doing?
Mm-hmm.
I do too, and if I were to say, my mother would not be amused, and you would wave your finger at me because I was with my then girlfriend, now then girlfriend, and all the kids had gathered at the yacht club, as that's what you did in those days. You gathered at the yacht club and watched it on TV, and then carried on after that because the parents were up having their own party or in their own homes or whatever on this day in 1969. Let's get the Olympic report because that's obviously the big thing on everybody's, I think, everybody's radar screen right now. And first is, I wasn't going to run anything about canceling it, but then a whole bunch of reports came out this morning that the chair of the Tokyo Olympic Committee, almost like he was presaging an eventual announcement, like he was letting people down. All the wire services picked it up. Have a look at this report from Sky Sports in Australia.
Okay, let's get straight back to Tokyo now and get more on the news that the head of Tokyo's organising committee has not ruled out a last-minute cancellation of the Games. Geraint Hughes was in that news conference in the last half an hour or so. He joins us live now. Geraint, please put this into context for us on exactly what was said. Are the Olympics really at risk?
They're at risk as they have been for many weeks, many months because of the COVID pandemic. I think if we put into context that the chief executive of Tokyo 2020, Toshiro Mutu, was backed into a corner in the question he was asked, but he is not in a position to rule out the possibility of cancelling the games. Coronavirus, the COVID pandemic throughout the world is unpredictable. There are clearly anxieties and concerns here in Japan. What he did say, to put into context of what was said, was that they regularly review where they are in what's called a five-party meeting. Now, the five-party meeting involves all the key parts, the key elements that organise and put together these games. So you have the Tokyo 2020 organisers, Toshiro Muto. He is the chief executive of that, along with the chair, the president, Seiko Hashimoto. Then you have the IOC, the International Olympic Committee. You have the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and you also have the Japanese government as well. Decisions cannot be made on a unilateral basis. They have to be made by all these constituent parties. So Toshiro Muto cannot say whether the games will go ahead, but he also can't rule out that they will be postponed, because we are in this pandemic of which is it's affecting things on a daily basis, not just here in Tokyo, but throughout the world. It doesn't come as a surprise to me that he gave the answer he did. He didn't give a firm ruling out. We are just days away from the games and they will go ahead, whatever. They are very cautious here in Tokyo, perhaps more than many other people in recent games. For example, the culture, the society is different here in Japan as compared with...
Okay, he's starting to, back up a little bit. I don't know if this was clickbait for down in Australia, Sky News, Sky Sports, but to be fair, this report on Reuters on the wire service was all over the place this morning when I got up, and I just can't believe from everything I'm hearing, and we're going to hear from John Emmett in a minute, who I recorded an interview early this morning with him from the sailing hotel in Enoshima, but I just don't believe that this thing's going to get called off at this point. I sure hope it doesn't. They're all in a bubble. They're testing everybody. They're being super cautious. There are going to be some issues. There are going to be some, there's any number of athletes and officials who will test positive and so on, and either won't be able to compete, won't be able to judge, will have to go into quarantine or, self-imposed isolation, whatever. Well, let's just hope that this is well and truly behind us now, although the news media, I guess they have to have something to talk about. Now, speaking of something to talk about, this was the most fun news of the week. First of all, I'm sure you've seen this. Have you seen this video?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to play it for everybody. Have a look.
Today's episode of Fake News at the Olympic Games. The beds are meant to be anti-sex. They're made out of cardboard, yes, but apparently they're meant to break at any sudden movements. It's fake. Fake news!
Irish gymnast Rhys McClenaghan has appeared to dispel the myth that Olympic bosses designed cardboard beds to dissuade athletes from getting up close and personal at this year's COVID-hit Games in Tokyo. Rumors have swirled online that the flimsy-looking beds in Tokyo are a way to prevent famously randy athletes from bonking at the Olympic Village when they are meant to be social distancing. The theory of the anti-sex beds was cranked up a notch when US distance runner Paul Kilimo posted a viral tweet in which he claimed the sleeping arrangements were aimed at avoiding intimacy among athletes.
Okay, so you get the idea. But those beds, by all accounts, are very robust. I mean, forget about the Irish gymnast jumping around it. But the kid went viral. I mean, he's been doing reports. I've been looking for YouTube videos from sailors, and I haven't seen any yet, and hopefully we'll see some. I posted this story when it first broke over the weekend on my Facebook page, and it had so many comments, pithy, clever comments. But as Julia, as you said, when I went up to fix you a drink the other night, having a cardboard bed or a camp cot that folds up that never stopped any of us, right? Now, my mother said she thought we were playing Monopoly when we were watching the space land.
Because you told her that's what you were
Is that
doing.
what she said? But, it never stopped anyone from taking the blankets and the pillows off the bed and putting it on the floor, especially if the bed's small, right?
Right.
What's the problem? So it's hilarious. I mean, I think as several of you said, they would just move. Yeah, but Wingrove was saying they would just move them out of the way and set up on the floor. Of course. In fact, then they might be able to have four-way on the floor, Julia.
Oh gosh.
Huh?
That does never mind.
Now, see, now I've got it above my head, and I can say, "Oh, Julia, what a crouton you are! Come on."
Yeah.
Have you ever had four-way?
No. and if I had, it wouldn't have been any of your business.
You wouldn't have said so on the show. I had to ask. Okay, I did an interview early this morning, and you can see it was before I got cleaned up for today's show, and I have to tell you that this is the most croutonic start, at least, of any video I've ever done. I didn't know. I thought we were going to do this late last night, and I kind of had that in my brain. And then I woke up, and John had texted me and said, "Oh, can we do it?" Because I waited and waited, and he couldn't do it apparently. And then this morning he said, "I can do it," but he wanted to go to bed because he's 8 hours after us. He's whatever. So. No, he's 8 hours before us the next day. So he wanted to go to bed. It was early in the morning for me. It was late at night for him. I didn't know what time it was. And we did this interview. And please bear with me because it's croutonic, at least the start. Good morning, John Emmett. I guess it's good morning here in San Francisco at 7:30 in the morning. It's 11:30 at night in Enoshima. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I was going to say good evening. Good evening. We're almost a day ahead of you now.
So what's your situation? You're in a hotel in Enoshima. Is this the official sailing village, yachting village, or is this something else?
So this isn't the official sailing village. That was absolutely full to capacity. So not all the teams got the number of beds they wanted. So I guess the best description, I'm in an overflow hotel, and this hotel is also full of sailors, although we're very much kept separate from the general population. But yeah, it's pretty close to the venue, and just happy to be here, really.
Well, so I won't ask you to get up and jump up and down on your cardboard bed because obviously your bed is not cardboard. Is the bed in the other sailing village hotel? Are those beds cardboard?
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean it's all very well made. But I think it could be best described as cozy. So I guess most people are just going to be living out their bags for the next 2 to 3 weeks. But I actually see it as quite a good thing. I mean, the Olympics is something very special. And, you should just be going sailing, performing the best you can on the water, and then going back to the hotel at night to rest and decompress and get ready for the next day. We're not here as tourists.
Well, true. But you have seen that video of the Irish gymnast who's jumping up and down in his bed. It went viral last night, Thursday night here in the States, Monday night here in the States. I've just gotten up. I got to clear my head. Just went viral on all the news, all across network news and cable news and so on. It was terrific. We should probably open by commenting, besides talking about cardboard beds, we should open by commenting on the passing of the great laser sailor, designer, terrific International 14 designer. He designed the sonar, too, and Canadian who emigrated to the U.S. Did you know he, too, was a journalist? He was a writer in Montreal originally, and then Ottawa maybe even, and then ended up as the editor of what was then called Yacht Racing Magazine, or Yacht Racing and Cruising, or the original. Now it's Sailing World.
Yeah, I mean,
of course, we're talking about Bruce Kirby.
Yeah, I knew Ian Bruce better. I'd stayed at Ian Bruce's house, but I just think Bruce Kirby, we just owe him so much, and it's very sad news, but somehow quite fitting for him to die in what we're calling the golden year of the Ilka. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary this year, even though it's slightly older than that, and obviously, before the laser, I think it was probably called the Weekender or something. It's a shame because the class is just turning a corner with the multiple builders, and I think a lot of things after a big mess are going in the right direction, and the laser class just goes from strength to strength. It's actually really difficult at the moment. People have been asking me, who would you place a bet on, and I just think it's the closest games I can ever remember, and COVID's probably even added to that.
Well, yeah, it was originally called the Weekender, and you know what the code was, what the insignia was on the sail?
You're gonna tell me.
TGIF. It was the letters TG. Thank God it's Friday, and of course it is Friday where I am. I am still. I better have some more coffee. It's Tuesday where I am. It's about to be Wednesday where you are, right?
Yeah, so we had the first team leaders meeting today, and we're just about to go into measurement. And so the rules are kicking in, and it feels like a well-oiled machine. I mean, it is different, but then again, absolutely everybody expected that. It's been quite exciting to do the practice races and see some people again. In the standard rig, perhaps no surprise that the Australian and Kiwi representative look really good. Also in the radials, Australia's been right up there. So people we haven't seen for a very long time. So it's going to be good when we're all finally racing together in just a few days' time.
How many boats in each? How many in the ILCA 7, the men's, and how many in the ILCA 6? What we used to call the radial, the women's.
I think it's 35 and 44 off the top of my head because of just trying to add a few more female athletes to keep those quotas of men and women. So the radial the ILCA 6 is the biggest class.
Bigger than the RSX.
Oh yes, yeah. So I think that makes it particularly hard to pick because there's a lot of boats who can make the top 10, but actually for anybody to pick 3 medalists would be incredibly difficult. And we always joke as coaches, we do all this training and then for the regatta it's completely different. But that is exactly what looks like it's going to happen. So we've been doing lots of training since the 15th in southerly breezes, and I think day 1, day 2 it's going to be northeasterly. So. There you go.
Any rough weather, any typhoons on the horizon?
Not typhoon, but certainly we'll be looking at 20 to 30 knots coming in that 3-day period. So whether it's before race day 1, or race day 2, long-term forecasts are long-term forecasts, so we don't know exactly. But yeah, that northeasterly looks like it's going to be coming in. At the moment, it's been absolutely glamour, light sea breezes, and just remembering to drink enough and put enough sun cream on. For an Englishman, it seems pretty hot, and it's humid as well.
What's your typical day, and then we'll talk about the rest of the week, and then let you go to bed. What's your typical day, or the typical day of you and or one of your mentees, one of the sailors you're coaching?
I bet so. My typical day is very boring. It's sort of go to meetings and collect ice and check in radios and whatnot. But most people at the moment are training as normal. So they're doing, whatever, a cross trainer or a stationary bike or, the containers are everything at the moment. They're like the medical station, the lounge, the gym, the office, all crammed into 40 foot. So people are doing that. And then people are racing in the afternoon, roughly at the same sort of time they're going to be racing at the competition and just testing out the course areas. So different classes have different course areas and just getting to know them really. To me, the venue seems really familiar after such a long break, but you can never have too many days on the water. And now it's just a case of being sensible because you can't really win in the pre-competition, but you could lose it. So it's avoiding illness, avoiding injury, avoiding heat issues, and just making sure you're fresh and ready to go.
So you're about to go to sleep on a Tuesday night. You've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the opening ceremony. When does the racing, at least for the ILCAs, when does that actually begin?
So we're on the 25th, and I think we've got 2 days of measurement coming up. That most people won't go to the opening ceremony, but we're sort of going to have a little sailors opening ceremony down here near Anoshima. They were describing it at the team leaders meeting. I'm sort of not quite sure what's happening. I think as we go on the bus to the venue, I think they're going to do a little dance for us on the bridge and we will have to look out the window, but I'm not quite sure what they have in town, but they're trying super hard. And I say everything's really well run. When we came to the airport, it just felt like being a school child again. So you had a teacher at the front and a teacher at the back, and we got walked through everything, did our saliva tests, and you sit there and wait until you get a negative test, and you're put on a bus and taken to the right place.
Are you tested every day, just in the morning or morning and night, or?
Yeah, first thing in the morning. I do it personally. The first thing I do when I get to the venue, so I can't possibly forget. But after a long flight from the UK, I was pretty dehydrated. It's surprisingly difficult to produce a centimetre of saliva. And I tried to have a little drink of water, and apparently you're not allowed to do that. And I had to wait another 15 minutes. So
because you
yeah.
could put something in your mouth that disguises the. We've read about athletes in other sports testing positive and some officials, but any sailors that you know of?
I think the best thing to say is, to my knowledge, none. I mean, we have such an outdoor environment, and nobody wants to take any risks. So we have 2 apps. One of them we do is OCHA, which you actually need to get into the country, and you have to submit a daily health check on that. And then another one is the testing, as in if you're near anybody, you will get pinged if they also test. So you've got those 2 apps running the whole time. And
sorry, if you're near anybody who has tested positive, is that it? Your app will
so
ping.
if somebody's tested positive, you will be pinged on that. So everyone's being super careful, and it's not much fun wearing a mask, but it's really a first world problem, whatever the expression is, and it's really nice to get on the water because you can take your mask off and it's so much cooler. I think that's it's made me even more keen to get on the water each day. And the setup, it's been really good because they cleared the whole venue of all the local boats, and there's lots and lots of space. And a lot of things just feel like a normal Olympic Games.
When was the last time you and the other sailors and coaches were on the venue? Was it 2019 for the pre-Olympic, for that Olympic Classes regatta?
Just event. Yeah, and I remember saying at the time we should go and see Mount Fuji. And we sort of thought there'll be plenty of time to do that, but it's not going to happen.
Little did we know. Well, I've talked to Luca Devoti, who, by the way, is going to come on Friday's show. I'm going to tape him same time his my Thursday night late, which is his, my Thursday morning, which is his late Thursday night. This is total confusing. Again, John Emmett is in Enoshima in south of Tokyo, where the village and the sailing venue is. It's 23:36 there as we tape this on my Tuesday morning, 7:30 in the morning here. John, really appreciate your coming on. Luca describes his whole experience as almost like prison-like. He says, we come back to the hotel, we can't go out, we can't even go into the hotel garden. All we can do is go into the breakfast room in the morning.
Or we can. Luca most days. He's quite difficult to miss. I'm just a small man running around in a mask. But as you said, we're here to do the Olympics. You go to the venue, you do your physical training, you go sailing, you come back and you have a good night's sleep. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit boring, but apart from probably having a beer, there's not a lot different for me. They're laying on lots of buses each time. They take you straight to the venue, and you can watch Netflix or whatever on your way there. And the food's good, the hotel's nice, and I think we should just be so happy that there's an event going on.
Well, I think that's for sure true. We've all been cheering for this event to happen. We did not want a repeat of 1980, the boycott for the Western athletes, or 84, the boycott for the Soviet athletes and their satellites. But great that you're there. Great that you're safe. You said you just had to climb up 6 flights of stairs. You couldn't use the hotel elevator. Why is that?
Yeah. So there's normal Japanese tourists are in the hotel, so we can't have any contact with them. So they use the elevator, and I have to climb upstairs through, I guess you describe it as the fire escapes. So it's quite funny going up with my bags, and the little lady who was showing me accompanied me, and she said, "Oh, it's good for your legs." And I got to the top, and I had to wait a few minutes for her to catch up, looking rather out of breath. But,
well, you're getting your cardiovascular exercise anyway.
Yeah, it's just great to be here. And I say it again, I just came to do the sailing. It's really no problem that we're just going sailing every day and then going to the hotel. But for me, that's fine.
And how's your bride? How's Lucy doing?
So she just checked into Tokyo. I see it all on social media because she was doing a live show for China. So she's got a media accreditation, and she's up in the media bubble in the main sector. So I don't know. China could win maybe 40 gold medals. So I expect she will be pretty busy. And maybe she'll only come to the sailing venue if they get a gold medal. And
well, and China's got a huge team. I did a little segment on the show on Friday. 777 members of their delegation, athletes and coaches, right?
Yeah, and if chances are they will get one medal in sailing, but on that same day they may well get 2 or 3 other medals up near the main venue. So I don't know whether she'll be able to come down and play. So that's a bit frustrating. But at least these days we have Wi-Fi and we have WhatsApp and we're on the same time zone. So it's all good, and we're both very happy to be here.
Well, give her our hugs, virtual anyway. Will you see her at all during the games?
Well, I think she's going back to China straight after, so it'll be quite good if I get the opportunity. But we just have to see how it works out. The top thing is, we've done so much work, and just to give to the very best opportunity that she has to get the best result here. And it's a more complicated venue than people think, and every meter, every point makes a difference.
Well, that's Olympic in the life in the Olympic, I should say. Fastlane. Last question, and then we'll let you go to bed. Who is the favorite, do you think, in the ILCA 6? Maybe the top 3, and who do you think are the favorites in the ILCA 7?
It's almost impossible to answer, but I think if you ask most people in the ILCA 6, they would say the Netherlands and the Danish in no particular order. As to fill the 3rd medal, there's just so many names. It's really hard to say. And I think because of the nature of COVID, it's a really hard one to call. I think the ILCA 7, there's probably even more names, but the Australasians, Werney, look really good. And then I would imagine that you have a European filling 1 or 2 spots as well. So I think a lot will depend on the conditions. And,
in the ILCA 7 and the men's, in the laser, we think it was the laser traditional, Robert Scheidt is back at age, what is he, 48 or 9, from Brazil, of course.
He's definitely a laser master in more ways than one. He makes people like myself look very, very bad. I was using the rower the other day, and apparently I didn't actually row hard enough to charge the battery. The athletes were complaining. I said, I'm not on your level. But yeah, it'd be lovely to see Scheidt do well. And certainly, mentally and experience, he's got everything there. But I think it's the same as the ILCA 6 for the sort of 3rd medal. It's really hard to see where it's gonna come, and I would anticipate a relatively high scoring regatta. That northeasterly, we're on the courses closest to land, so it's funneling through valleys and over high lands, so you can have big pressure differences and big shifts all across the course. So it's a bit of the English saying it's a game of snakes and ladders. I don't know what the American translation is, but yeah. It will probably be the person who counts
headers and lifts, headers and holes. Yep, so we use snakes and ladders for sure too. But John, it's great that you came on. I think a lot of us on TFE Live, you know all the FOSI, and they're going to really love to have this, and hopefully we can do it again. But also, we'll probably be cheering, a lot of us, for the South Americans, for Robert Scheidt in the ILCA 7 in the laser. We'll probably be cheering for Santi Lanja in the NACRA to see if he can come back. Have you run into him at all?
I went on the NACRA course, and to be honest, I found it quite scary. So they did a short course, and the boats on the port lay line were over. They overstood, so they bore away, and they were coming in on port, overstood, full foiling, and yeah, I saw one boat ended up with only one person in it. I won't mention who it was. So if you want to watch a class, I think actually NACRA looks pretty good TV to me. I tried to video the Finnish boat, and we were absolutely full power on a 100 horsepower engine to keep up with them. And it's probably the worst video I've ever taken, because it was up. So I sent it to them. I didn't get any feedback, so maybe it wasn't that useful.
And the name of your Finnish laser sailor again, whom we will be following?
It's really frustrating. After 4 years, I don't think I say it that well, but Tula Tekkanen, and this would be her final Olympics. So obviously, good for her to go out on a high note.
Great. When can we do this again?
I'm absolutely fine now. This sort of time when my athlete's safely tucked up in bed and I've finished all my coaching duties. I wouldn't want to do anything before racing, but after, I can do another day, no problem.
Maybe we can try to do it again. We'll go offline and figure out the date, but we really appreciate this. Stay well. I hope all the sailors stay safe, and of course, have a great Olympics. And it is more than just going to the venue and go to the hotel. I mean, it's sad that you can't have some of the Olympic experience that that we've all had when we've been at the Olympics. I, as a judge, and you get out and about, and missing the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony because you're in a different venue, that's not a big deal. When we were in, for example, Savannah in '96, and the main Olympics, if that's the right word, were in Atlanta, we had the option of busing to the airport, flying from Savannah down to Atlanta, and it was a long exercise. Go to the opening ceremony, get on the plane, fly back. And most of us, well, some athletes, probably a fair few athletes, pretty younger people, but those of us that had been to the Olympics before opted to stay in Savannah. We had all the dignitaries and officials with us, Walter Cronkite and various IOC people, and we had our own little sailors party. And I'm sure you're going to do the same in Enoshima.
It's only an hour and a half roughly to the main village. Yeah. Some of the sailors have been, and they've all said the food is better, but I think it's a long way to go for your lunch.
Yeah, well, at least you don't have to get on a plane to go to the opening ceremony for those who do want to go. John, sail safe, sail fast, have fun.
And thank you.
Okay, ciao.
We'll talk soon. Thanks. Ciao. Bye. Okay, as I said, that was one of the most crutonic. I apologize for my head not being clear. Some of you will have thought I did that late at night after a few cocktails, Julia, up at your place. No, but John, that ran long, and I wanted, though, to lay the whole kind of groundwork for the whole what was going on and ask John all those questions. And we will have Luca Devoti on with us on. I'll do another tape with Luca. In fact, the confusion is that he wants to be taped. I'm not going to try to go through the timing again. We'll have him on. Thanks, John Emmett. That was much appreciated having you on, despite the person who was interviewing you being a crouton. Jonathan Frank, Julia is saying, welcome to the world of a professional airline pilot. Yes. during COVID, where we are locked in our hotel. So that is that's the case. Andrew Pindar has moved to a Scottish bar. They must be having drinking games. Again, Rob Sternstein, hello to you. Jason Holtum, hello, Jason. Nice to see you on here. I saw our immediate past Commodore on here as well from St. Francis Yacht Club, who, along with Paul Humchick, I think got the July 20th question correct and early. John Lamberts Van Buren, hello, John. Tula Tekkanen, did I say that right? Is the lady whom John Emmett is coaching. Now, we're going to focus in on the laser class with a couple of the world sailing videos that have been issued in the last day or so to give you a feel for the racing and for the fleets and for the stars in those fleets.
The Laser Radial is the same 4.19 meter hull as used by the men in the Laser Standard fleet, except that the sail is just over a square meter smaller, measuring 5.76 square meters. The Radial made its first Olympic appearance as the women's single-handed boat at the 2008 Games in China, and, like the men's laser, requires immense cardiovascular fitness and core strength. A good racing weight for the Radial is around 65 kilograms, although heavier than that is no bad thing when the sea gets choppy or wavy. With silver and gold from the past two games, Marit Bouwmeester of the Netherlands looks well placed in Tokyo to score a hat-trick of Olympic medals. The Dutch sailor will be hard pushed to match gold from Rio 2016 though, with the Rio bronze medalist Anne-Marie Rindom of Denmark looking powerful throughout the Tokyo cycle, winning the 2019 world title amongst many other medals on the world stage. 2018 world champion Emma Plaskaert of Belgium is another serious medal contender. Poland, Greece and Japan are also pinning high hopes on their athletes reaching the radial podium in Enoshima. Making a late run for the Games after competing in the Volvo Ocean Race, then trying her hand at a 49er FX skiff campaign, is Ireland's Annalise Murphy. After narrowly missing a medal at London 2012, Murphy worked hard on her speed in light winds to win a silver at Rio 2016. At 1.86 metres tall, she's always been quick in strong winds, and despite her lack of recent time in the boat, could yet win a second Olympic medal in the rolling waves of Enoshima. The largest fleet at the Games, with 44 athletes, laser radial racing will start on the 26th of July.
Okay, another World Sailing. I love these videos that they've been pumping out and focusing on the lasers. Again, take a look at this.
So my name is Anne-Marie Rindem, and normally I sail the laser radio. I'm currently working towards Tokyo, and I'm the newest member of the Denmark SailGP team. Normally my Olympic boat, like the laser, it takes like 10 minutes to rig, and it takes maybe 10 seconds to pull it in the water and I'm off sailing. But here the boat takes maybe 2 hours. There is a lot of things that is happening for just getting 1 hour on the water. I've been sailing the laser for 12 years, so I also needed some new perspective in sailing. And I haven't been sailing, to be honest, other boats, maybe J70, but not very much. So this is a great opportunity for me to be a part of and learn from all the guys and from this big boat. Yeah, obviously it's not the greatest timing in terms of being here in Bermuda and taking time out from my campaign, but I think it's giving me more than it's taking from the campaign. And it's just one of those opportunities that you don't say no to. Now, obviously, I'm really stoked that a small country like Denmark can have a team in the SailGP. I mean, that's amazing. And to be a part of it, you know, I've been following it, and since I saw it on the website that they are trying to have female sailors into the program, I was really stoked, and I was going on for days like, should I call Nikolai, should I not? But then luckily he called me and asked if I wanted to be a part of it. Normally I'm alone in the boat, but back at home, you know, we are also a team, but it's different because by the end of the day it's me who has to perform, and only me, and I can blame myself. But here, to be a part of such a big team, like it's both like the tech team, of course, on shore, but also the sailors. They are very funny to be around, you know, they are good guys, and they always, I feel like that I'm very welcomed here on the team, and there's no bad vibes or anything. If I have a question or if I have a comment to something on the water or on shore, they're willing to just listen to me also, and I feel like that's very important, so everybody can contribute to the team. I think it creates a pathway for females. It is a man-dominated world, and it is hard when we don't have the experience like they have, but I think this is also necessary for a step in the female direction, because there is a lot of good sailors that are females, so we need opportunities like this, and I feel like that's what SailGP is giving us.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. She was featured in that previous video as one of the top contenders, even though I think it's her first Olympics. But tough sailor, tough woman, tough person, and she is, I think, going to benefit greatly from having, even though that was recorded obviously in Bermuda during SailGP Bermuda, but taking time away from her campaign, I think is going to benefit her very well because of all that SailGP experience.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll see. We'll follow them as well. One more. Let's look at the laser men now. I've got one more video to play. Let's look at the laser men in this vid, and then talk about Robert Scheidt.
It may be half a century old, but the laser is still the definitive single-handed sailing dinghy. Originally designed as a simple, off-the-beach recreational boat, the one-design nature of the laser soon made it very popular for serious racing. It made its first Olympic appearance at the 1996 Games, when Robert Scheidt from Brazil narrowly won the gold medal ahead of Great Britain's 19-year-old Ben Ainsley. Measuring 4.19 metres long with a 7 square metre sail, lasers are supplied at the Games by the organisers, so there's no technical advantage for any sailor. So bring your wetsuit and go racing! Just make sure you have legs of steel and core strength in abundance, because hiking the laser is brutally hard for all but the very fittest athletes. A good weight for a laser sailor is just over 80 kilos, and it helps if you're at least 1.8 metres tall. The past 2 gold medals in the laser have gone to Australian sailors Tom Slingsby in 2012 and Tom Burton in 2016. Having beaten Burton to selection for Tokyo, Matt Wern is one of a number looking to step up to the top of the Enoshima podium. London 2012 silver medalist and twice world champion Pavlos Kontides is out to prove that small nations like Cyprus can succeed against the athletes from bigger sailing powers like Britain's Elliot Hansen, France's Jean-Baptiste Bernaz and Germany's Philipp Buhl. 25 years on from winning that first ever laser gold medal in Atlanta, 5-time Olympic medalist and all-time greatest laser sailor Robert Scheidt might yet win a 6th medal for Brazil, even at the age of 48. At 35 boats strong, the laser is the 2nd largest Olympic field. Racing commences on the 26th of July.
Again, great storytelling. Whoever's writing these things for World Sailing, producing them, voicing them, I don't know who that is, but I think they've been terrific, and it really tells a story in a minute or two of what's going on. Speaking of whom, Robert Scheidt was the subject of Magnus Wheatley's blog post today on the Rule 69 blog. Not about the boat was the headline, and Magnus says, for as long as I can remember, Robert Scheidt has dominated sailing. Now, notice he didn't say laser sailing. He said sailing, because the guy's been dominant in every class he's ever sailed in, including the Star. The fact that it's been in the most basic of classes, the laser, on one hand, and then that most technical of boats, the Star, on the other, is remarkable. Scheidt has been the dominant force and the ultimate blocker to many an aspiring Olympian's dreams. He has set the standard to which all others must rise, and only a Ben Ainsley, at his very, very best, beat him fair and square in his prime. 9 world championships in the laser, plus 2 gold medals and 1 silver in the class. In the Star, it was 3 world championships, 1 silver in Athens, and a bronze in London. This is serial medaling, and Scheidt is the man for the big time. Phew.
Yeah.
Robert Scheidt of Brazil. So that's why I said earlier, we're going to be watching some South American sailors, including Robert and including Santi Lanja, in the NACRA class, which is why we're also going to do the Finn and NACRA medal races. Sadly, I can't do, because they're Sunday night, our Sunday night, a week Sunday. I can't do ours. I just won't have time coming back from Gov Cup, where we'll be all next week, to get teed up to do those here. But again, that's Magnus Wheatley's Rule 69 blog today. Bravo Zulu to him and to Robert Scheidt, whom we will be following. Just to review what we told you on Friday, the medal races are Saturday the 31st, which is Friday night here in the States. It's and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, weather dependent. They could move around a bit if the weather does not cooperate. And on the 31st, that's the windsurfing. On the 1st, which again is Saturday night here, that is let's do this again, men's and women's windsurfing. On August 1st, the men's laser and women's laser. August 2nd, the men's 49er and women's 49er FX. We'd like to cover that too, see the Kiwis and our foesy Leonard Takahashi and Ibu Koizumi. August 3rd, we will cover the men's fin and the foiling NACRA 17 mixed catamaran. And then if that is fun, Julia, you decide whether we do another one the next night for August 4th, which is the men's and women's 470. I say it's at night because, as Ben Remacher told us the other day, it looks like the medal racing is not at noon. It looks like it's at 1:30. We'll figure that all out. And of course, they may adjust that too, the exact time, depending on television and so on. But these dates, again, these are local time in Tokyo, and our watch party would be the night before for us in San Francisco, and on the East Coast it would be in the middle of your early morning in Europe on that same day as Tokyo time. We will do a Zoom watch party on Monday, the 2nd of August, San Francisco time, for the Finn and NACRA medal races. That's Monday, the 2nd of August. We'll do it in our evening, and that will be Tuesday, the 3rd in Tokyo. That's the plan.
Sounds good.
And for your local times, I did a bit of a chart. Now, these could be an hour and a half later, depending upon whether it's the racing really is at noon, or as Ben Remacher told us, he thinks it's going to be closer to 1:30. So these times may be an hour and a half early. San Francisco, instead of 8 o'clock, it may be 9:30, and it may be 30 minutes after midnight in New York, and so on. But we'll, as we get closer to that all, we figure out what the exact times are, we will let you know. The Zoom ID will remain, as in the past, 267-220-6570. My personal ID and passcode will, of course, be TFE, Tango Foxtrot Echo. Speaking of Leonard and Ibu, I just love the picture. We will be following them, wishing them our best. We hope to see them doing well. And we are proud to say, I talked to him at some length last night, and you talk about a cup half full, which is Emmett, and this guy's sometimes a cup half empty. Oh, it's a prison, Tom. It's terrible. And Emmett, of course, is, it's, it's all hunky-dory. Everything's fine. It's very well organized. And the truth is, it's probably somewhere in between the two. But regardless, we will have Luca on as our guest. I'll be live to tape with Luca sometime between now and our Friday show, Friday afternoon at 1300 Pacific, as usual. Julia, what are the comments here? Baton Rouge is watching from Charleston. Mary Jude's back on. João Alexander, we talked about. John Lambert's Van Buren. And for Brazil, keep an eye out for the famous daughter of that famous father. Yeah, Martine Grail, who's sailing 49er FX.
Yes, she's doing very well. Yeah,
that's right. Thank you. And, of course, Julia is very fond of the Grails, having had them here at St. Did they ever stay here at the Beach Street Yacht Club? Any of the Grails?
No.
You just met them over at the club.
Yeah.
Carried on.
And actually, it's 2 generations of Grails.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're, sailing in South America is strong, and they're probably going to win more medals than the U.S. is. Not just South America, probably Brazil, and maybe even Argentina or Chile. Now, corrective Crutonic, we're changing topics. We're leaving the Olympics, although it's somewhat could be related, because if you ever try to run surfing or waterboarding, or not waterboarding, wakeboarding in the Olympics, this may be appropriate. This showed up in the papers yesterday up in Scout Country, up in Minnesota here, and there's a controversy over these wakeboards, which you have special boats. Wake boats are churning controversy around Lake Minnetonka, which is one of the great sailing lakes in this country. Critics say the boats are loud, disruptive, and may even damage ecosystems. Well, what they for sure do is throw a hell of a wake, which makes it difficult to sail or canoe or kayak. So they need to share the time. At a recent meeting, the Midwest Wake Surf Association, co-leader Andy Weigman had some good news to share. Wake boats have been less noisy this year, he'd been told by the leader of an organization that usually complains about them. It looks like we're making a positive impact, he told these association members who gathered appropriately in a back room of the Excelsior Brewing Company.
Of course.
But look, I'm not going to read the rest of the article, but there's a bunch of people that do this. You have these boats that pull skiers and water and what do you call those waterboard? They're not wakeboards. And this is an article by Katie Reed in this Minneapolis, or what used to be the Minneapolis Star Tribune. It's the Minnesota State newspaper. But there is a guy, obviously a combat, well, not obvious, but he's a combat veteran, I saw in the article. And it's fun, but you got to do your timing. And when the sailboats are out racing, it's, you know, you don't want these things running around the lake. So hopefully they will do this in the morning or at night, especially the water's flatter, there's less wind and so on. But are these boats in general, should this guy get a life and go to the coast, are they correct or croutonic, these wake boats on these lakes in the middle part of, well, down through Texas? Correct or croutonic? What saith you, Julia?
I think that the most of the comments are negative.
Yeah, Clark Chapin, but notice that the guy in the picture has an artificial leg. Yeah, okay, so he's Magnus Croutonic, Jonathan Frank is saying. Horrible boats, Jonathan Frank is saying. Yeah, and he's, of course, down on a tech Croutonic Stingray. I can already tell. Yeah, I'm not, no disrespect or even support for the sport just because the guy's a combat vet and has an artificial leg. That's not the point at all. It's, are these boats that are towing these people and making a lot of noise and churning up the lake? James Frederick Bland, who's on a lake down in Texas, they are croutonic. And they do. I mean, they create a hell of a wake so that they can ride obviously surf on them. And it bangs up the breakwaters and the riprap and so on all around the lake, and who knows what it does environmentally, and it makes a lot of noise and so on. But, you know, people have got to have their fun, right? As Super Croutonic Bill Wingrove is saying, as bad as jet skis. Croutonic for sure. Oh, wow, I'm surprised. There's very strongly negative, Julia.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you know, we used to have these on Portage Lake where I grew up, where Clark Chapin still does race and past Commodore of that club. And a lot of lakes have these kind of, you call them Miami Vice type boats, you know, these big ski boats. They're really for pulling skiers, lots, maybe more than 1, 2, 3 at a high rate of speed. And, you know, and they're barefooting and other doing trick skiing and so on. But these boats are also just racing boats, Donzies and other, the brand name. And those things go up and down the lake at a high rate of speed. They're dangerous as hell. They make a huge amount of noise.
Right.
And they get banned on lakes. And I rather suspect that these wake boats will get banned eventually, too. Andrew Pindar, onto the single malts now, which unfortunately come as doubles. Stingray saying, I hear they measure their speeds in miles per hour, not in knots. Clark Chapin, should be a limit of only one wakeboarding per lake, or maybe one half. Okay. Not very much support for them.
No. Ted Ryman says owners of those things need to be waterboarded.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misspoke about waterboarding, but maybe that's true. that was a Freudian slip, Ted Ryman. Yeah, they're not really popular. And even with other power boaters and fishermen and women, can you say fishermen anymore? What's the term of art? Fisher people? That sounds croutonic.
Fisher person.
Well, here's equally croutonic. This is surfing. A new surfer sent me this photo down in SoCal, and this is on the Pacific Ocean. You wonder why it's named the Pacific Ocean. Well, it's generally a lot, at least on our West Coast, a lot more peaceable than it is on the Atlantic is on the East Coast. This is daughter Meg Ehman, who has taken up, I never thought I'd see it, but she has taken up surfing in a big way. Father Greg Newman, this is her. I don't think that's her surfing instructor, Julia.
Oh, no.
You know who that is? That's her boyfriend.
I was going to say, yeah.
And Aaron, and that is off, not Pacific Beach, but Ocean Beach in San Diego.
That's a neat photo.
She's croutonic.
No,
go find a wake. She needs a wake boat to pull them and get them some wake. Governor's Cup 2021, our 7th and final edition of Road to the Gov Cup with David Wood. Before I run that video, I want to thank, this guy is clever as hell. We aired his Road to the Gov Cup interview with Andy Rose and myself on Friday. He is Marius Vesterlind from Sweden, from GKSS, Royal Gothenburg Sailing Society Yacht Club in Göteborg. And this kid is certainly going to win the award for the best hair. And he also is a hell of a good sailor, and he's very clever, and it was a lot of fun. So if you did see that Road to the Gov Cup, that was in our Friday show. By the way, we're going to post all of these Road to the Gov Cups on the Governor's Cup website, Balboa Yacht Club's Gov Cup website. Susan Watson Kenny, who's on here watching, is probably hard at work doing that. But in the meantime, we did do this interview a few days ago with David Wood, also Balboa Yacht Club arch rival and good friend of Jeffrey Peterson. A little bit shorter than the previous ones, but have a look at arguably could be the favorite to win, or one of the favorites certainly to win the 54th edition of the prestigious International Youth Match Racing Championship, the Governor's Cup. Welcome back to Road to the Governor's Cup, the 54th edition of the prestigious International Youth Match Racing Championship, taking place down at Balboa Yacht Club in a couple weeks' time. In fact, when you're watching this on Tuesday's TFE, the event starts 1 week from today. We're delighted to have with us once again our Gov Cup guru, Andy Rose, down in Newport Beach, and one of the hometown favorites from Balboa Yacht Club, David Wood, who's standing by near Newport Beach at his home in Corona del Mar. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tom. Well, first we better explain that. Corona del Mar is actually a village of Newport Beach, meaning they have their own post office, but actually is part of the city of Newport Beach. So when we're trying to impress international, people, we call it Newport Beach, but Balboa Yacht Club is actually in Corona del Mar also. So in any event. Well, welcome. The first one of these we did was with Jeffrey Peterson, the other hometown hero here from Balboa Yacht Club. Both David and Jeffrey pretty much grew up sailing together, and actually David won the United States Youth Match Racing Championship for the Rose Cup at Fort Worth Boat Club with Jeffrey crewing for him. Jeffrey has just won the same cup just a few weeks ago in Rochester, New York, beating, among others, David Wood. You've been off match racing for a while, I believe. Was that the only match race you've done in 18 months or something?
That was the first official race we had done. We had done a little bit of training and sparring leading up to the event, and a lot of boat handling work. But as for official match racing, that was the first one in about 18 months. Yeah, we actually got. I loved it. Anska Jordan, who we just did from San Diego, filled out his request for information this time with every one of the questions said same as last year, same as last year. Needless to say, it affected the world, and so there hasn't been a lot of match racing since. Let's talk about you. First, I want to know, first, you started in the Governor's Cup as one of the youngest ever. I believe you were 16 in your first Governor's Cup, weren't you? That's correct, yes. And I believe on the first two times you sailed against Harry Price and Leonard Takahashi, who ended up first and second in the regatta, you were ahead of both of them in the first time you sailed them at the first weather mark. So you came out with a splash. I remember Harry saying, "That kid is fast." Welcome back. Needless to say, this is going to be quite a summer. As we noted with Jeffrey, you and Jeffrey have another regatta after this one. What's that, David? Well, after that one, we have the Worlds in the second week of August. So we'll be doing that one shortly after we finish up Gov Cup. Now, this is the second time Balboa Yacht Club has been able to do that. We hosted the World Championship. It's officially the Youth Match Racing World Championship, which is World Sailing's official event. And we did that in 2017 pretty successfully. This year, we'll be doing the same thing. There's a week off between Governor's Cup and Worlds, and we'll be doing the same kind of video coverage, et cetera, for the Worlds as we do for Governor's Cup. What's next on your agenda in real life? You went to Roger Williams University for a year, but the COVID thing screwed up a whole bunch of university efforts. What's up? It did. I ended up taking a year off and coming home and spending a year at home looking to do some sailing. Unfortunately, I didn't get quite to do all the match racing that I was hoping for, but a lot of good ended up coming out of it, and I ended up getting on a program with Team Compadres, the Andrews 77, and we actually start the Transpac race on Saturday. I was gonna mention that. When do you expect to finish, and when do you expect to get in a plane and get back here? Are you going to be back in time? Yeah. So right now, the routing currently says we're planning to take the southern route, and we are going to. Right now, it's predicted finish in about 6.5 days. In which case we already have our flights booked. We have a red-eye home, and we actually arrive at LAX 6 a.m. On the day of the practice day. So we'll go right to the yacht club and start practice.
well, you should be well rested and all that. For those who don't know, I think most people do, but the Trans-Pacific Yacht Race is from Los Angeles to Honolulu. It's about 2,225 miles. I have no idea how many kilometers that is. But I was fortunate enough in my younger days to do 4 of them, and we won the last one, so I don't have to go again. Actually, it's a terrific race. It's a lot of fun, and I'll tell you, of all the ocean races I've done, arriving in Honolulu, finishing off Diamond Head Buoy, and the reception is one of the best things in all of sailing. I guarantee it. You guys will have a great time. But needless to say, I hope the routing is right, because we'd like you to sail in this Governor's Cup thing.
You know, I would like to sail too, and I'm hoping the routing is right as well. Even if we do push into that 8-day range, we're going to be right on the edge, but we will hopefully make it back in time.
Great. Well, we're counting on that. Let's put it this way: if you don't get back on time, don't bother coming back. What you've been sailing dinghies here lately during the COVID thing, because you could do that. It was about all you could do. Tell us a little about the 49er.
Yeah, so Daniel and I, my longtime crew member Daniel, who is as well sailing the Transpac with me on Team Compadres, and as well sailed with me for Rose Cup, and will be sailing for Gov Cup and Worlds. Me and him picked up the 49er about I guess 8 months ago now, just trying to break into a little bit of the apparent wind sailing that we hadn't gotten to experience. I had a little bit of experience with the 29er, and Daniel and I are both tall, about 180 pounds, so we figured we'd be a good fit for the 49er, and it's been great so far. We got to go down to Miami for a couple of weeks and race against Nevin and Dane and a lot of the Olympic team guys, so it's been really good so far.
Right. Nevin, that he mentioned, is Nevin Snow from San Diego, who is a 2-time Governor's Cup winner. So he was one of the youngest to win and one of the oldest. So
yep.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean, as much time as you can spend in dinghies, and you're right, you guys are pretty good size for that. I think you told me the next year or this fall you're going back to Rhode Island, but you said you probably wouldn't be doing intercollegiates, and I certainly understand that, because I mean you'd have to have a really small crew to be able to do that. I was pushing kind of the limit my freshman year at about 170 pounds, and a year later, after COVID, I'm up to about 180 now, and at that weight, it's tough to be competitive in college sailing. So I think Daniel's actually moving out there with me, and we're going to continue our 49er sailing and our match racing, and hopefully continue pushing forward with a little bit of big keelboat offshore sailing.
David, did I miss it? Did you say Daniel's last name, and what club is he from?
Daniel Pegg. He's also from Balboa Yacht Club.
Pegg, okay.
The good news about the Balboa Yacht Club thing is we started the Rose Cup in 2010 because we noticed that in the Governor's Cup, the Americans were not often appearing on the podium. So we thought, well, the least we can do is try to give some more opportunities. And the neat thing about it is, 11 years later, it seems to be bearing fruit. I mean, you and Jeffrey are 2 of the top U.S. sailors, but we're also including a number of Rose Cup sailors from this year, because I think this year was pretty clearly the most competitive ever. So it'll be kind of neat. There are 5 or 6, I think 6 Rose Cup sailors, 5 Rose Cup sailors in the Governor's Cup. That's many more Americans than normally come, but we've lost Australia, New Zealand, and UK teams because of the quarantine. If they were to go home, they can get here, but they can never go back. But the 3 Europeans, Marius Westerland, Timothée Paulet, and Emil Kiar, have really good records. Do you know? Have you sailed against any of those 3?
I haven't sailed against any of them that I'm aware of. I may have touched or raced against one of them when I spent a little bit of time in France doing some World Match Race Tour racing up there. But other than that, I have not raced against them.
Well, I think I get the feeling that they're pretty good. I mean, one of the neat things about the Governor's Cup is we never know, with the international competition, because you generally aren't sailing against each other. And so it's always interesting when you go out for the first race. As you know, this is a double round robin series, so you'll have lots of opportunities. And we've seen, well, I guess, the most recent example was was Owen Lahr, who I believe beat you in the Rose Cup to get second, right? Was it Owen, or who was it? Sorry,
Jack Egan.
Oh,
got
Jack
second
Egan
this past year.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jack learned an unfortunate lesson about modern match racing, and that is that I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone that wins all the rounds robin races, and in this case the quarters, and then loses in the finals. It's a jinx. So don't win all the round robin races. Actually, he talked to Dave Perry. We had this on his interview, and Dave said, yeah, or I talked to Dave, and Dave said, yeah, that's true. He says, that happens a lot. He says, but I'd still want to win all the round robin races. So, I couldn't agree more. The other nice thing about you being back there, are you gonna, I hope that the Australians and the Kiwis get vaccinated, because they're two pretty good regattas in Australia over the Thanksgiving holiday, and you've been there before, I believe.
Yes, I believe I've done 2 Harkins and 3 Mustos at this point. Yeah. So we've spent a lot of time down there, and we have it on our calendar, and it's on the schedule, and international travel permitted, we would love to go back down there for another 2 weeks and hopefully come back in the future again for an espresso, Warren Jones, and maybe a couple other events down there.
David, let me jump in here and ask you, I'll come back to the Gov Cup for a second. Is this your 4th or 5th?
This will be my 4th Gov Cup, yes.
4th Gov Cup. And are you eligible after this? Do you age out this year? You've got a couple more years?
Yeah, I believe I have 2 more years of eligibility. I'm 20 right now, so I've got at least 2 more years.
And what about local pressure? When was the last time Balboa Yacht Club won this?
I believe it was when Christoph won it a few years back.
Fairly recently. This is not like that one, Tom. If you remember, that was the first time in 37 years when Christoph won. So this is a lot better than that. And as I said, these guys have been, gotten good because of all the additional match racing.
And Christoph's last name?
Killian.
Killian, the famous Killian family from Balboa Yacht Club.
Christoph Killian. So, tell me about you, since you've been, let's go back to what we first talked about, which was that Rose Cup this year was really your first formal match race in, over 18 months. Did you find yourself rusty, and what did you have to work on? And are you better, at the end of the regatta than you were at the beginning, or?
No, absolutely. I think we went into the event itself very open-minded, knowing that we had Governor's Cup and Youth Worlds approaching. We wanted to go in and try and shake all the rust off and get all the big mistakes out of the way, and see if we could push the other competition at the Rose Cup and continue to learn and improve throughout the event. And I think the team itself did a great job of that. I can very confidently say that we never lost a race because of any boat handling or boat speed. It was just completely on decisions that I made. So I was really happy with the team and where we were in that aspect. And I think it was great to get back out on the water and actually do some formal, full racing against a variety of teams. So I think it benefited not only my team, but Jeffrey's team and a bunch of other teams that will now be attending Gov Cup.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well, think of it this way, David. With all your experience, if the Governor's Cup was a series, you would have a 3-3-1, and you'd be well ahead.
There you go.
Just think of it that way.
Exactly.
That was your last Gov Cup. Well, David, thank you very much for joining us. We can hardly wait, frankly, Tom and I, and a whole bunch of other people at Balboa Yacht Club can hardly wait for this to start. I think it's going to be a terrific series, and we hope you will join Tom and I on, not you, David, but we hope those watching will join us starting on Sunday night, Monday night, July 26th, where we will broadcast the opening dinner. David knows what that's like, and you're probably already planning something evil to say, aren't you?
This is going to be the 4th year, and you're yet to get me once, Mr. Rose. So this is
challenge accepted.
This is kind of the last straw here. This is your last chance.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Well, thank you, David, and we'll see you in about 10 days.
And David, have a safe transpac in the meantime.
Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Ciao. Thanks, okay. Andy. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
It does give one some confidence in, again, we say this after each of these 7 kids that we've interviewed. We're going to do some more taping of the other. There are 10, several of you have asked, there are 10 entries this year, down from normal 12 because of the pandemic, because of COVID. And the kids from down under can't come. I mean, they can, as Andy said, they can come, but they can't get home, or they've got a long, expensive quarantine when they get home, and yada, yada. But we're also Dr. David Bray, who is the fleet surgeon at Balboa Yacht Club, and his clinic sponsors the Gov Cup. And there's an extensive testing, and they're going to do the whole kind of 9 yards, almost Olympic style, at Gov Cup, which starts this coming Monday night. And then the next week, we will do 10 live shows. We'll stream them both. I think we'll stream them both here on Sailing Illustrated TV, Sailing Illustrated's Facebook page, but also on the Gov Cup Facebook page. That's what we've been doing at least the last couple of years. 10 live shows every day, starting Monday night with that kickoff dinner and roast, the introduction of the teams, welcome to the teams, and continuing through the prize giving. Live racing Friday, a week from today, live racing next Friday and Saturday. We'll be out in the Pacific Ocean covering that, and then we'll, of course, cover the press conference, post-race press conference, and prize giving on Saturday night. And then I'll come back up here Sunday, and we'll do our Julia. We'll do our thing Monday night.
Yes.
And we'll do our regular TFE live show a week Tuesday, a week from today. Now, somebody, Stingray, I guess it was, asked, and I think with any luck here, I can pop up. Can I? I'm going to try to pop up. I thought I was going to pop up a map and show you where the Balboa Yacht Club is. Stingray, you asked, that is the Coast Highway, PCH. It's called Pacific Coast Highway in different places, but it's California 1 that runs from basically San Diego all the way up to all the way to the Oregon border and beyond. I mean, it turns into something other than California 1, I suppose. Yeah. And it swings through Newport Beach there, and Balboa Yacht Club there you can see in well, you can see
in red.
In the red. I put the pin. I dropped a pin, as they say in Google Maps. You can see across over on the peninsula is, of course, the Newport Harbor Yacht Club. And then to a little bit to the south there, out on the ocean, is the Balboa Pier, and we run the racing for Gov Cup out there in the ocean. And they do run Wednesday night or Thursday night beer can racing and other racing in the bay in Newport Harbor, but we will be out on the water for that racing next Tuesday through Saturday, live racing on coverage on Friday and Saturday. I hope you can join us for that. Now let's check in briefly. This is going to be, I'm not going to do a big deal because it's only halfway through the race, or a little bit further than that, but that was the positions earlier today. Okololi is leading. Now, that is a boat that started on Tuesday. They started the slower boats on Tuesday, actually backed them up a day. It used to be Wednesday. They backed them up to Tuesday. And then the faster boats start on Friday and Saturday. The fastest boat started on Saturday. It is now Tuesday, and they're halfway through. Let's see if I can go here to the Fortog camera. But you can see that Ho'okalole is out here, and again, this is first to finish. I don't do the leaderboard. You all can go on. They've got a great race tracker, and you can see who's who in the various fleets. But it was looking like this boat, which is the turboed Paiwacket. It's the Volvo 70, and they started on Saturday. This boat started on Wednesday, but they're leading their pack, and the thinking was that they would eclipse sometime going maybe even into the last few miles of the race, but it's not sure, because when I looked this morning, Paiwacket was only going 10 knots, and these guys are going 10 knots. Prior to that, the Paiwacket was going twice. They were in 20-plus knots, but things have slowed down. We'll see when they get into the really strong downhill slide for the last little bit. We'll see what happens. But that's the current status. Just a quick look into Transpac 2021, and of course, David Wood is on that race, and Chris Bretschker, and any number of other of our friends. So we wish them all a safe trip across and hope to see them next week in Newport Beach. I do have this segment. Thanks. And now I'm going to do a tribute to Bruce Kirby at the end of today's show. The late, great Bruce Kirby, who passed away yesterday, the designer of the laser and so on. But before we get to that, this Denise Peterson sent this, Julia. Knowing that, and I couldn't resist. I've been sitting on this for a long time, but I thought I'll probably take the banjo down to Newport Beach and play a little.
Oh, that's good.
Probably play a little few songs down there. But so I guess the prosecuting attorney, you admit that this is indeed your banjo the police found at the scene, but you expect this jury to believe that you were never in the kitchen with Dinah. Okay, if you don't know the song, I think it's pretty, Dinah, won't you know, Dinah, won't you know? I've been working on the railroad with the banjo in the kitchen, yada, yada. Okay.
Yes.
Denise Peterson sent that along. Then there is this one, musically related. Now, do you get that one, Julia? This is very clever. This may be the cleverest cartoon we have ever run on TFE.
Oh, gosh,
Live.
I don't.
Let's see who among our foes gets this. Stingray will get this. Did Dave also design the Laser 2, or was that Dick Rose? I don't know who designed the Laser 2. I don't think that was Bruce Kirby. But Fenders. Yep, James Bland got it. Clever boy that he is.
Oh, yes.
Those are Fender guitars, Julia.
Uh-huh.
And somebody has hung them over the side of the boat. At least they're not out sailing or motoring around with their fenders all over the side, which is that is...
Yes,
it's a
bad.
That's a real sin. I mean, that is
I
just thought that was pretty clever.
It is good,
I had
yes.
to run that. And several of you sent that to me. And I won't say who sent this one to us. I'm working on pants for old guys. They'll combine, speaking of Dockers, and they'll combine the comfort of Dockers with the protection of Depends, the adult diapers. I'll call them dry Dockers.
Well, gotta have.
I may need dry Dockers before we're done here. Who knows? If these shows go too much longer, Julia's a camel. I don't know how you do it. You can stay, but when this show's over, I stand up and I've got to. Well, okay, enough of that. Too much information.
Too much.
Here's the last one. I put this on my Facebook page, and this also got just a bunch of beaucoup comments, great comments. And the meme, I mean, the photo's great as it is, isn't it? Some kind of a meter boat, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But this is the meme. There is a cure for every addiction except sailing. If you love sailing, you're screwed with a capital F. You're screwed for life. Really nice meme. Thank you for that. And now to the finish line, our final segment. This today is a tribute to the late, great Bruce Kirby, who passed away yesterday, age 92. He grew up in Canada. He immigrated to the States, to Connecticut, where he's been a longtime member of the Norotan Yacht Club. Bruce was a newspaper man in Ottawa and Montreal before he became a yacht designer. A competitive sailor in international 14 dingers from age 15, his focus was on making the boats faster. What a great boat the I-14 was and still is. After being beaten in a regatta at Cowes in heavy winds, some of you on here were probably there, at least raced against them in the 14. I know that Ralph Roberts did. I know Paul Henderson did. After being beaten in a heavy air race in Cowes, he drew the Kirby Mark I on a piece of shelf paper. It was fast upwind and a breeze. He sold 30 of them. Untrained Kirby began designing by observing. Quote, I had a copy of Skeen's Elements of Yacht Design. If you can understand 50% of what's in that book, you can design a boat. Design isn't brain surgery. We should always pretend that it is, but it's really not, unquote. Having made that modest disclaimer, Kirby grants that designing a vessel that is compatible with two disparate elements, air and water, is in fact a challenge. There were 7 versions of the Kirby International 14 built, 739 boats total.
Wow.
Quote, it was done seat of the pants, unquote, Kirby says. Quote, no testing, it was all empirical. Each new boat was a takeoff on the old one, unquote. In '64, Kirby moved to fins and made the Canadian Olympic team. He didn't quit his day job. By the mid-1960s, Kirby had become editor of One Design Yachtsman, I was telling you at the top of the show, now Sailing World. He jumped into a starboat in '68 and then represented Canada in the Olympics in '71. A car-top dinghy he had designed at a friend's request was launched, and Kirby's fame was assured. The boat was called the Laser, originally called the Weekender, TGIF. More than 250,000 of this demanding Olympic-class dinghy had been built. In the summer of 2011, at age 82, Kirby sailed in the Sonar, another boat he designed, European Championships held in Scotland. He won 2 of the races.
Yay.
He did continue to sail the 24-foot Sonar, personal favorite of his 63 designs, out of the fantastic Norotan Yacht Club in Darien, Connecticut, on the North Shore of Long Island Sound. Terrific racing club. Andy Kostanecki's own club. He gives away 20 years to the next oldest skipper, but still manages to record frequent top 3 finishes. Quote, I do my best working 15 knots and above. Once I'm in my Sonar, the aches and pains go away. That is a terrific tribute written when he was named to our U.S. National Sailing Hall of Fame, written by Roger Vaughn, and thanks to them for letting us have that text. Here is Mark 1 of the Kirby-designed International 14, circa 1959, with Bruce at the stick. As I said, those were fantastic boats to sail. And here is the design of the Laser.
Lovely.
That he did on a yellow pad, on a legal pad, in what, 69 or 70, and we all had lasers by 71, 72. We had moved from the Sunfish and others. This is the Sonar, and the Sonar is a club boat in Long Island Sound and beyond, up in Newport, New York Yacht Club, Sail Newport, and so on, have fleets of them. Scott McLeod, who was on here earlier at least, and I don't know if he took this photo, but he sent the photo, and he said, I think this photo says it all about Bruce's legacy and the boats he designed that gave joy to so many. Sail on, my friend. Scott McLeod, the esteemed commercial director for New York Yacht Club's America's Cup Challenge. Paul Henderson, the former president, our good friend and Fozy, former president of World Sailing. My roomie, they called each other roomie because they roomed together in Tokyo 64 Olympics and the Acapulco 68 Olympics. Laser and Ideal 18, Sonar designer, and on and on. Sleep well, old friend. Michael Rudnick, another Fozy I haven't seen on in a while, but he said, he's from Norotan Yacht Club, he said he was the definition of a stalwart at our club with never a hint of pretentiousness, and that is true. I'd get a call out of the blue from Bruce about something we'd run on here, or something he had a question about the America's Cup, or a suggestion about the America's Cup, and just, hey, I was thinking about this, and usually a brilliant idea, or certainly a solid idea. Never a hint of pretentiousness despite his well-deserved fame, and while he had to stop racing his beloved Sonar Jack, that's the name of the boat, only a few short years ago, his mind and devilish wit remained sharp as he can be. He will be so very missed. He did have a twinkle in his eye. Ralph Roberts, who's on here, and has known Bruce since forever, extremely saddened to hear that one of Canada's great sailors had passed away. Bruce was a special friend to many sailors. I first met him in 1958 at Cowes in the International 14s, and he kept in contact throughout the years. I will miss his wonderful humor and emails. R.I.P. Bruce, and condolences to all of the family, and I would add condolences to all of the sailing family at Norotan Yacht Club and beyond. Bruce Kirby, born in Canada, emigrated to the USA 1929 to 2021. May he rest in peace.
The twinkle in his eyes comes through even in that photograph.
Yeah, it does indeed. Great man. Bruce Kirby. He will be missed dearly. Okay, that about does it for us. Julia, do you want to say your usual thing at the end?
Yes, please like, share, and subscribe.
Like, follow, and share.
Sure. Yeah.
And subscribe, hit the bell. That's true. That helps us with the algorithm, whether it's Facebook or... by the way, we are regularly posting the shows. You can watch them in replay on Facebook as soon as the show is over, and then it takes me a couple hours to get them uploaded to YouTube, to our Sailing Illustrated YouTube channel, where you can watch them as well if you don't like to watch them on Facebook. Comments welcome too, even in replay. We always like to say that. Support us on Patreon. Please become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And so many contributions from so many people for today's 2-hour and 10-minute show, Julia.
Yeah, treat yourself to some fun and read the comments.
Indeed. Indeed, and thanks again for whether it's Sharon Green or the Fosey and everybody in between that let us have things for this and other shows. Okay, that's it for Tuesday for show number, what was this, 439? Well, 440 on Friday before we go down to Balboa Yacht Club for Gov Cup next week. We hope to see you on Friday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, have fun. Ciao. Bye.